longtime buddies, and they just saw each other for what Ed said was days, but I believe in Mr. Prather saying it's been much longer than that. But okay, continue on. You guys said you haven't seen each other in forever. How did really? You guys? Yeah.
Oh my God! I think the last time I saw you was in D.C. when you were working for Colonel York at Phoenix, weren't you?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That was I left there in 2007, towards the end, and like I'd say within 4 or 5 weeks, I was in Fallujah, and I'm thinking, I want to be back in Alexandria. Send me back to Alexandria.
What were you with, Isotap?
No, actually, I was with the MPRI. They had the Law Enforcement Professional Program, LEPS.
Well, that's not part of International Chiefs of Police.
No.
Tactical Isotap.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
so the funny thing is, I knew Jerry York, Colonel York, from DIA, but I knew you from DEA when you were FBI. Do you remember you did undercover for me at the? I don't know if we should name the resort in Tucson or not.
Oh yeah. I know the resort quite well.
We did a high level at a high level resort for a big case. I don't know if we should name the money launderers, but you were my undercover for that. Remember that?
Yeah. I mean, that used to be one of my hangouts. So that was like the only decent place between Tucson and the border where you could have a good meal, and a secure, confidential chat with somebody.
I think they just moved it or something. I think they just changed it. Yeah. Wow. But been a long time. Yeah, you were. Yeah. I think I gave you a bag with $250,000 in it or something.
Something like that. It was something like that. Yeah. I mean, I forget. It all runs together for me. I mean, I was like your neighborhood bad guy. So.
Yeah, you were. Yeah. And did we go over to San Diego to work that informant over there too? Did you do in the Keys there? Yeah.
Yeah. And we followed up on that on a separate case, and I don't know. Did you hear what happened to her?
No, what happened?
She got whacked.
Did she?
Yep. It was. I was stunned. I thought she had enough contacts and enough, as I say, enough juice to get over any difficulties. But I guess she overstayed her welcome or something.
Did you WITSEC her?
No. I mean, we didn't even get to that point. She thought she had carte blanche. Just a blank check to be able to go back and forth between the U.S. and Mexico. And one trip she goes away and never came back.
Well, I forget the other agent, and we may not. He was another FBI special agent, but he used to drive up with her alone. And I used to say, man, I would never drive up with a female informant alone. I would never do that.
No.
That was crazy to see.
It was crazy, especially her.
Yeah, especially her with the Black Widow, we called her.
Yeah, exactly. The Black Widow was right. So.
Wait, why? Am I retarded? Why?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know it's 2021 now, and no, I would never be alone with a girl. They're gonna say I'm a white male who raped her. Was that the concern then?
Sure. Informant will run you if you let them. They'll set you up in a second.
Oh,
they'll run you.
Oh, Jesus.
A lot of inexperienced agents, they're professional and they'll work different agencies and they'll just run the agents if they don't know what they're doing. A female will just accuse you of doing something. So you never be alone with a female informant.
That's a problem looking for a place to land.
Yeah.
Well, I am the agent that you'd find face down dead in a field and be like, well, he almost made it 5 days.
No, she just come on to you and then accuse you and then she owns you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that would be me, and then I would make an accusation back, and yeah, I would end up dead, face down in a field, and within 5 days. I don't even know how, but I would.
No, you wouldn't end up dead. You'd end up in New York.
Yeah.
So.
Nothing worse than death.
That's where I ended up, Ed. When they went after me, they put me in the broken toys department in Tech Ops, where all the whistleblowers were. It's the island of broken toys from the Rudolph.
Yeah, I guess every agency has their office up there, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like the Dami. It's the if you remember the Rudolph, where the Island of Broken Toys, and that's where they put you. Used to have a sign up for that. I want to be a dentist. I used to put that up in my cupboard. I want to be a dentist.
They just, was that when they would just throw you? Is that where they'd throw you away to? Like
yeah.
If you just it's like fuck you. You're gonna go work at the North Pole kind of thing.
It was like Siberia. It's like going to Siberia. So
I've had people accuse me in the comments on this podcast before that there's no way I'm not an intelligence asset, because they look at me, and rightfully so, they're like, he's too stupid to be able to wrangle these guests. But now with you guys on here just talking about all this shit back and forth, I feel like my cover's blown now. It's gonna how else would I have this? But it's just dumb luck.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's like the Courier movie that's out right now. He goes, I don't have any training. You're like, you're perfect.
It's beautiful.
Because you don't have any training. But
last summer I was accused of working for the Air Force, saying that this was a guerrilla recruiting video or a guerrilla recruiting channel. And I was like, that's such a big compliment to me, because I was just above my parents' garage. And then last week someone said, are you CIA? And I'm like, no, but that means so much to me that you think that's what I am. But for everybody listening, Ed Mireles, you've been on here twice before, once with my cousin, and Jeffrey Prather's been on here once before, and Mr. Prather mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago about Ed Mireles, and like a moron, well, I know Ed Mireles, and so let's have you guys on together. But Ed, you're most well known for the Miami firefight, the FBI firefight, and Mr. Prather obviously came on here last week and told his whole CV, which I couldn't repeat if I tried. What exactly made you guys, because you also mentioned Vince Sheffield, who is going to do an episode with you, who's in the ATF. How does it all get tied in together? Or if you guys just want to keep talking, I know your stories are better than anything I can come up with, but how is it all tied together? Is it just like
Ed, hold up your arm. Show him your arm, Ed. Show him your scars.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh well, yeah, Ed showed us. Or yeah.
Oh okay.
Yeah. No, but you know what though? In all sincerity, in all honesty, in all truthfulness to your question, it just happens. I mean, I met Jeff through dumb luck. I mean, he happened to be in a certain office, and I happened to be assigned to that office, and we just met. Boom. I mean, it's just time and chance. I mean, it wasn't planned. It wasn't orchestrated. It wasn't a setup by the CIA. It just, sometimes you just meet some good people, and sometimes you meet some average people, and sometimes you meet some duds.
Yeah.
So, by the way, Jeff, do you remember Joe, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I've lost track of him. He's another good guy.
I've lost track. I have to get your phone number after this so we can stay in touch. I was looking for it a while back because it's been like a decade or something. But yeah, I've lost some of the guys. I've got since my podcast went big. Some of our peers have contacted me and they're like, "Hey, great job, keep it up." And
good.
But going back to the Black Widow getting whacked, the WITSEC program that the marshals used to run so well, now the AUSAs have taken it over, and they want to run it and they want to vet everybody. And of course, that'll never work. I mean, when I WITSEC guys, they'd show up, they'd come through a door for the trial and then disappear, and it was great. And now, and the marshals did a great job of running that. But now, I guess the attorneys have got their hands in it, and it's not going well.
I think they overthink it. I mean, you and I think like cops. Okay, what do I need to do to get in and get out without getting killed? It's that simple. They are probably looking at it like through some lens that you and I have no clue.
Well, I think there's a lot of corruption. In fact, what I always say, how your name always comes up when I'm talking is I say the FBI has become so corrupted with Mueller and Comey and Strzok. But I say I know real heroic, for real FBI agents, and I always name you. And I always talk about the Miami gunfight, and that's been memorialized. You're a legend, well, I say you're the real deal. And I've seen you put your life at risk working for me while I'm in the other room with the camera.
You know what? Though, I have to agree with you. It breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. But today's FBI, and it's not the rank and file guys. It's the management. The management is corrupted to. I don't even know. It's kind of like, what did Jesus say? Hey, find me one man who's not a sinner, in the city, and I'll spare the city, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the story, the fable, when God told one of his disciples, "Hey, find me one honest man in this city, and I'll spare it." Well, guess what? The city got nuked.
Yeah.
Same thing with FBI headquarters. Find me an uncorruptible manager, and
Well, I think that went into when they took on the counterterrorism role. First, they went to counter drug, and then they went to counterterrorism, and that got into intelligence. And then Stroke was head of the. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he in charge of their foreign counterintelligence program, which is actually a CIA position?
You know what? I honestly don't. I've been so out of touch, Jeff. It's been unbelievable. I mean, I spent a lot of time overseas, and I really lost track of everybody. I was overseas 6 years, and I came back in 2014. And
oh wow,
I've been slowly trying to hobble.
What about Todd from the Tucson office there?
I've lost track of him too. I mean, I really
because he was a good guy.
Yeah, no, definitely a good guy. Yeah, but no, the management. I don't know. It's just a different era, just a different generation. I mean, when you and I were in, I'd rather do something, nasty than be corrupt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm alluding to.
Yeah. Well, I know that because I still work in the competitive intelligence corporate field. Mm-hmm. I know what InfraGard is.
Yeah.
And the InfraGard volunteers that are sending stuff in, they send in stuff on Blantifa and everything else, but it gets scrubbed by the 14s and 15s and 16s, so that all they get is vanilla ISIS or Proud Boys, or they don't get any of the Blantifa, BLM, Antifa stuff, and so they get a real slanted picture.
Yeah, and that's a big complaint. I've heard that complaint recently. Like I've reconnected with some guys of my generation in the last few months, and that's what they say. They say, "Hey, it is just unbelievable that they can look at the right wing people as terrorists, but then when they look at the left wing people, they just scrub them. They whitewash it. So it's like, wow, unbelievable."
I'd like to think that we're coming to a head where maybe some people can kind of be, shaken out of the matrix. And since I started this podcast, I've been accused of being a neo-Nazi because I like Trump, because I'm white, because I have stunning blue eyes, and because I have an American flag.
Yeah, but you know what? I bet you're also a unicorn too, right?
Well, I am, but
I knew it. I could see it.
I'll fight you, Ed.
No, you don't want to fight Ed.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I've read your book. I know you're a madman. It's but I have been. It's kind of interesting because in the last week or so, I've received more emails and comments that have been auto-removed by YouTube just because of language, saying how evil I am because I did an episode last week just saying we stand with Israel. Because I was like, hey, fuck terrorists. Let's, just... Yeah. And I've had more people commenting saying that I'm supporting warlords and war criminals. But to me, it's just the oddest. Like, are we coming to a point where not everyone will be able to believe in the Matrix anymore? Because how can I be a Nazi for supporting Israel?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so bizarre. I mean, we're like upside down. We're really, I mean, up is down and down is up. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Yeah. Mr. Prather, so this is kind of just an off question. So like you always kind of hear about, at least I'm 30 years old. I was 11 on 9/11, just to frame kind of my experiences. One of the big complaints you always, at least what I heard in the years after 9/11 was, it was because of the infighting, it was because of the compartmentalization, it was because of the obstruction of a free flow of information, to which people would argue you need that compartmentalization just like you would for a stealth plane. Like you can't, if you do get a mole, you want to limit what that mole can do. When you introduced yourself last time, saying about the people you had worked with, and then now with Ed and you guys telling these badass stories, it sounds like the intro to like a Lethal Weapon movie. Is you guys just talking about your old times. How much is it? So what is it? Is it compartmentalized and it's territorial and everyone's got their own fiefdom? Or is it this free flowing kind of, I don't know, you're trading players, here's a guy from the Special Activities Division, here's a DEA, here's an ATF. What is it? I know this is kind of a complete 180 from what we were just talking about, but it's something that's popped into my head. It seems there's these two opposing models. It's either this it's in these quadrants that no one can get through, or it's just this kind of revolving door of mirrors and smoke. What the hell is it?
Jeff, may I?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
What?
He says yes because it's all of those things. Is what he's saying. It's a mixture of ambitious people who don't have morals, unlike Ed, and it's a mixture. So in the government, a lot of Ed and I were working agents, and then there's the saying: you can't manage cases and you can't manage your career at the same time. So you either manage your career or you manage cases. You do the work. Or you're always telling everybody what you're moving up to. That's the difference between.
We call it politicking. You're politicking. So or working cases, one of the two. So I'm sorry, Jeff. Continue.
No, but there were FBI agents, heroic FBI agents in Arizona trying to track the 9/11 pilots, and they were told to work something else. I also know Tony Schaefer was at DIA. He was my peer. I was in DC. He was in Afghanistan. We had the same boss, and he had data mined bin Laden. And when the 9/11 Commission came out, DIA did to him what DEA ended up doing to me because they want to deflect the blame. They always want to kill the messenger to kill the message. Yeah. And so it's a combination of that. But then inside DEA, another part of that is, just staying with the 9/11 thing, is there were these Israeli art students approaching DEA and the towers before the hit. And I guess they were trying to breach DEA because DEA had not yet been corrupted. And I got that from one of my peers that had been a special agent. He'd also been military, and he'd also been in intelligence. I wasn't even really aware of that. But it takes a long time for us to put all these pieces together. In my case, when I was working with Jay Dobbins of ATF, who was a whistleblower on a totally different area. And then later on, I ran into Vince Cefalu when we were doing Paul Gosar, Arizona congressman, about Fast and Furious. And I figured out that the guns going south through the ATF were going to the Sinaloa cartel. DEA had a deal with the Sinaloa cartel. That's in the Zambada trial. It takes a long time to put all the pieces together, but it's a combination of ambitious people being enticed and trapped, bribed, and then extorted. And that's kind of what has happened inside at the highest levels of these agencies, including the DEA, including the FBI, but not Ed, and not me, but a lot of guys, but a lot of bosses. When I was at the end of my, career there in DEA, I mean, the bosses were like crooks. They acted like they had crews.
Yeah, like the organized crime, almost.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Help me out, and don't say the name if you can't. But you guys had a program with the phone numbers.
Yes.
Okay, I forget the name of that program, but
I won't say the name, but that's a great example because I had a TS with DOJ and a TS with DOD. Mm-hmm. That program was for tracking Colombian cartel, but we couldn't afford it. DEA couldn't afford it, so they handed it off to the CIA, and then of course the CIA ran with it, and then it got corrupted, and then you got FISA fake, lying to the FISA court, right, and going after Trump, and then leaking those transcripts, which are those are felonies too. Right. And it just went all to, because you and I remember minimization, and I don't think anybody minimizes anything.
No, nothing. No, but anyway, I want to say something that dovetails with that program, and maybe it's a good thing I don't remember the name because I won't say it in that regard. But after 9/11. There was that program or a program similar to that, that I was at Quantico when 9/11 happened. I had just transferred from Arizona 3 months before. I left right at the beginning of the summer, and I was acclimating to Quantico. And then 9/11 happened, and of course, everybody responded, and I was honored enough to be tasked to go to the Pentagon to help do the crime scene, along with about 10,000 other people. You know, I mean, it took a village to process that crime scene. But afterwards, we were tasked with intelligence, follow up on intelligence. Okay, and this kind of brought it home to me. It kind of went full circle for me, because I had always been the victim of, like, hey, you know, you FBI guys, you know, you come in, you want things done, you know, you want this, you want that, but you don't tell us what's going on. You know, you don't share information. And, you know, part of that, there is some truth to that, and honest to God's truth. And then the other part of it was just, you know, a bad reputation, you know. But in defense of not saying anything, I was sent to FBI headquarters, and I was tasked for 2 or 3 months. I was tasked to go through that intelligence, the intelligence that your program processed. And then there was a similar program by another agency, or a couple other agencies. And I was given, I'd never seen this before. I'd heard about it, I knew about it, but I'd never actually worked it. But when it was put on my desk at FBI headquarters in a skiff within a skiff, okay, I'm thinking, holy shit. Should I be seeing this information? Even I was going, should I be privy to this information? I'm thinking, oh my God. And you know what we were tasked to do? We were tasked to take this highly classified information and convert it into a criminal case. And I racked my brain, and I'm thinking, how in the hell am I supposed to take this radioactive nugget and send it to an office in let's say St. Louis, and you know, tell the St. Louis officer, hey, there's a guy who lives at this house, this address. You really, really, really need to execute a search warrant, or you really, really, really need to go talk to him, or you really, really, really need to open a case on this guy, and not give him anything else. So at that point, you know, I realized what a lot of the local and state officers, I knew how they felt at that point, because I'm thinking there were so many cases, and you know this as well as I do, that you guys get information that you know, from a highly placed source. You're not going to tell the local PD where this came from. You have to you know, keep your cards close to your chest, because you want to protect the source, you know, the human source. And in this case, you know, we had to protect the actual intelligence source. But you know, I think, you know what, I guess, yeah, the FBI does have cases where you really can't tell the local guys what's going on. You just kind of have to ask them, you know, hey, we really need to do this. So, I mean, that was an eye opener, and it was towards the end of my career when I saw that, you know. So,
well, that's a great point, because there is open source articles that there is a joint agency back there where we were, that the intelligence community sits here, and the DOJ sits here, and intelligence comes in and they pass it over. This is just an open source article that anybody could look at, and they say develop your own parallel PC from that. And of course, that leads to corruption right away. And I think the big downfall, you know, having worked with FBI agents many times, you know, if you don't know, Tommy, the DEA used to go through in my day, we went through the FBI Academy because we didn't have our own academy. Now they've built one. Looks like a ship. Looks kind of silly, but it's cool because the FBI Academy's got lots of tradition. But DEA and FBI were always kind of side by side. Everybody else went to Glencoe. Yeah. So we were kind of the two agencies together, and they always talked about merging us. It was going to happen, but it never happened. But DEA kind of went as a paramilitary organization with SNOCAP, which I went to SNOCAP, and then the FBI kind of went to more of an intelligence function with counterterrorism. And I think that's maybe where they got lost, because trying to do evidence, you want to present it in court, sources and methods you always want to protect. And I worked this when I was doing counter drug and I was dual credentialed. I saw the problems when CIA was trying to do counter drug. It just doesn't work.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where FBI got lost.
Yeah.
And then the bad guys came in and took it over. What do you think about that, Ed?
And I think that's pretty accurate. The thing is, unless you've actually seen it and done it, sometimes, you just cannot take a square peg and put it into a round hole. It just doesn't fit. So then you have to go through all kinds of, machinations and movements and, some of this stuff maybe even bordering on questionable, to try to get something that is highly classified into the hands of a criminal investigation, and sometimes, I think that's what happened. Part of that was the reason that the 9/11 thing happened. There was information coming from the CIA and information coming from high-level FBI sources that was filtering down, but it was such a complex and convoluted process that when it finally reached the criminal agents, the actual criminal investigators on the street, and they developed independent information, I think everybody looked at them and says, hey, you guys are just mopes. What the hell do you know about intelligence stuff? It's like, it's kind of like, you develop, something, like a magic battery, and nobody believes that you have the technological knowledge to actually produce a battery. So they dismiss you. I think that's what happened.
Well, but I think you're too nice a guy. And I think maybe you're too fond of the old FBI, which I don't even know, if you go back to, what's his name, the founder, he was a mess. But what about Richard Jewell? What about the FBI agent escorting the two ISIS guys to Garland, Texas, and then trying to flee?
I hear you. I definitely, when I saw the Richard Jewell thing, that made me so angry. They were trying to trick him. Okay. And that happened when I was in, and when I didn't know what happened. And then when I heard about it, like a week or two later, or I forget when, I was so pissed because that went against everything. It went against all my values, okay, and all my upbringing, and morals and stuff like that. I'm thinking, dudes, we're supposed to be here to protect people, not ensnare them, not entrap them. Come on, what are you guys doing? And I told my wife Liz, who's also an agent. I don't know if you remember her, Jeff. But
yeah, sure.
I asked her, what the hell? Who are these people? They should be prosecuted, fired at the very least. And I don't even know what happened to them. It's kind of like going back, I'm just digging a hole deeper. It's kind of like Ruby Ridge. You know what happened to Ruby Ridge, right?
I knew Lon Horiuchi. I knew the HRT sniper.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were both FIs.
Okay.
So we both worked at the Quantico Range, right?
The thing is, what happened in Ruby Ridge, I'm not sure it was like an ASAC that was sent out to be in charge of the operation. And based on his recommendations or his thought process, he issued an order that any male that was seen on site could be shot and killed. I'm thinking, hey, you know what? There's a place for that policy, but maybe not in the U.S., maybe in Fallujah,
in a war zone,
or Afghanistan or someplace like that, but not in Washington State or Oregon or wherever. And the guy who wrote that, who gave the order, they had a log. They had a logbook, and it went, in chronological time order. At 0-100 hours, nothing has occurred. No events, uneventful. At 0-700, shift change. And just on and on.
Yep.
So anyway, when they found out, after the shooting incident, turned to a bucket of crap, the agent, the ASAC, and two supervisors went back and said, hey, man, we need to clean this up. So they cut pages out of the logbook. Okay. And I'm thinking, you have got to be kidding me. Take your lumps. Now you've complicated and magnified the issue of giving a bad order. Now you're obstructing justice. You're hiding evidence. It's like, I mean, and a couple of these guys were prosecuted and went to jail. And when I heard that, it's like, what in the world possessed these guys? Number one, to say that, and then number two, to go back and try to hide the evidence. I mean, that's no better than a regular criminal. I mean, I was so ticked about that. But,
yeah, there were SWAT teams. When they changed that ROE, I know there were local SWAT teams that left and said, we're not going to do ROE like that.
Exactly.
But you're saying there were agents that went to jail for that?
Yeah, the supervisors, the two or three guys at the top saying, hey, you know what, we need to hide this, because it's going to look very bad on our careers,
So I say now that the FBI and CIA are so corrupt, they just need to go. What do you say about that?
I agree. I mean, again,
wow.
you have to divide it. It's like, again, the rank and file, the guys on the street. I think, it's hard for me to gauge at what point in a career or in I guess career is the right word.
13 to 14.
That you start becoming susceptible to corruption or misguidance or whatever term you want to put on it, because, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have to have faith that the rank and file are still, gung-ho, flag waving, Constitution guys, but, I saw something on Facebook. Somebody sent me an FBI agent, retired guy that I know, sent me something that Louis Freeh, a man whom I respected a great deal, great director at the time, contributed $100,000 to Joe Biden's grandchildren. And I'm thinking,
yep.
Why? What would possess him to do that? And it's like, wow, unbelievable. I mean, that's like telling me, hey, Santa Claus, it doesn't exist,
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I found out last year that there was a CIA agent when Kiki Camarena was being tortured and murdered in the room. And I knew about the joint CIA program. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a exchange program.
Yeah.
And it's really a one-way street.
Yeah.
Because I knew guys who did that. I didn't do it because I was already DIA. I was, but it's a one-way street. And a couple of years back, I had a source, and I went up to the ACTIC, the Arizona Counterterrorism Intelligence Center, and I said, "Hey, I'm in JPass. Here's my social. Here's my DOB. I'm all over the place. I want to come up and talk to you guys." And they ran me, and I'm in JPass and everything. And I come in, I walk in. And I go, where's the FBI? He goes, they're not there. I says, do you guys have clearances to fuse? You're a fusion center. Do you have clearances to fuse? No, we don't have anything. And so it was, it was just another federal money thing, kind of like HIDA. So Tommy, HIDA is high intensity drug trafficking area. It's where the feds give monies to the local for task forces. And so then you're task forced, and like Ed and I are both firearms instructors. And so they'd have to, qualify with the federal standards, the DEA standards or whatever, not their local standards. They get a silver badge instead of a gold badge, that kind of thing. But that's how they would get control of the local PDs and SOs and put them under their wing. And I remember even in my day, because we're old timers now, is to get your 13, which is the journeyman's level, you had to do a Title III wiretap. Well, a 12 doesn't really know, a GS-12, Tommy, doesn't really know that much about, he isn't going to work big cases like Ed and I work. They just don't have that much experience. So, but to get their 13 level, which is the journeyman level, it's where you really make good money, they have to do a wiretap. So we'd end up following guys to Goodwill and we'd be doing stuff, but they got plenty of money for the wiretap because they had to have guys watching all the time. So it became a way to make money, as opposed to make money for the agent and make money for the agency, as opposed to really go after the bad guys, if you're following me.
Yeah, I saw that a lot in Omaha, Nebraska. I was there 3 years, and you know what? I'm thinking, I was stunned. In the 3 year period that I was there, we ran anywhere from, I think it was like 8 to 12 Title IIIs in that 3-year period. I'm thinking, how is this possible? I mean, somebody must have a great informant. And you know what? It was just a racket. It was just, the office wanted to say, hey, man, we've got Title IIIs, we're on the cutting edge. It's like, oh, give me a break. Your Title IIIs are Mickey Mouse, so. But no, speaking of Haida, I hadn't heard that name in a while, man. I remember when I was in Miami in the 80s, man, Haida was big money, man, for the locals. I mean, they would cut your neck. They would cut your throat for Haida money, and I guess I don't know how it is now, but I mean, in the old days, the money seizures in Miami alone was just astronomical. I mean,
and the car seizures, they'd go after a ride.
Yeah,
I remember undercovers that would like, hey, I want that ride, so I'm going to do a deal and seize it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, in my squad, and I tell you, I was on a rocket squad in Miami, in an 18-month period. Combined drugs, cash, and property. My squad alone, in an 18-month period, we seized $21 million in assets, in the drugs, the property, or the cash. I mean, can you imagine that? And that's just one squad out of 7.
Jesus. Now, do
you remember working? I worked green ice. And I used to get reimbursed on undercover accounts, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is really scary."
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't take advantage of it, but it was easy. It could have been easy for guys. And I was working with an agent because I did the case I had you do my UC for spun off, and I had a guy come out and he was flipping money around an agent, and it turned out he was using the actual money.
Wow. No, you know what? I never worked that case, thank God, because I mean, money was bad enough. And Tom, it's like, I hated money. I mean, that sounds kind of crazy, it's counterintuitive, but I mean, kind of like, I heard this line in the movie, I love money, but I hated money because it was a pain in the ass as a federal agent. Okay.
Yeah, we never count it. We take it to the bank and let them count it. Exactly. We don't count it. Just put it.
Yeah, I mean, you try to get rid of it as quickly as possible, and then you gave it to the bank, and the bank was the financial experts. Whatever count they came up with was the official count. There was nobody involved. It wasn't me and Jeff, counting it together. Okay, one for Jeff, one for Ed, and one for the government. It wasn't a game like that. No.
Now. And perhaps this is just me being doe-eyed and optimistic, and probably is, and I think that's why a lot of the people who listen to my podcast also hate me, is because I always try to take the devil's advocate side. But to me, I do look at it as an important practice. It's Voltaire said, the sign of an intelligent man is he who can entertain an idea without necessarily believing it. So when you look back and you're looking at the good old FBI, you're looking at all this corruption you're discovering, like, it's like finding out Santa Claus isn't real, or it's like, oh my God, this could be abused. Is it possible that is how it's always been? I mean, we look back to Eisenhower's military-industrial complex speech, and then we look back 3 decades prior to Smedley Butler's War as a Racket speech. Is it just that, I mean, that was a guy in 1933, a Republican who stumped for FDR but fought in World War I, and he's the guy saying, he said, my whole career I had suspected it was a racket. Now I know it's a racket. And that was in 1933. Is it just something that you maybe uncover, like the rules of mathematics are universal? It might take another planet 1 billion more years to discover it, but eventually they all discover multiplication, division, the values of pi and e and c. Is it just something that maybe in 200 years, God willing, America's still here, they'll be like, man, remember the good old days of 2021 back when they weren't corrupt? Is it possible that's the truth? Or are we truly rotting from within? Is that the dark truth that my optimism can't overlook? What do you guys think?
You want to go ahead, or you want me?
I'll go. Let me take a stab at it. That's a very good question and very insightful question, and the thing is, it's kind of like asking what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of like, hey, what comes first, the money or the corruption?
Sure.
Okay. I was I mean, when I was a young kid, I mean, I was starry-eyed. I mean, I'm from South Texas. You know, when I went to Marine Corps boot camp, I had cow shit on my shoes, my boots, you know, and you know, straw sticking out of my hair, you know, and I tell you what, I got educated or matured pretty fast after that, you know, but even with that said, I always looked, because of my upbringing and my character, I always looked to the good in people. Okay. But then as you get more and more experienced, more and more exposed, you know, you start saying, hey, you know what? This is an opportunity. If somebody really wanted to use or abuse the system, you know, it would be pretty easy to do. And now, as I'm towards the twilight of my life, you know, I'm thinking, you know what? I fucking hate politicians. Okay, I despise them all. Okay, I look at what they're doing. Okay, they're such whiners about money, their own paychecks, their own perks. Okay, and these are the types of people that have no concept of what it costs to give them what they are given. Okay, somebody has to pay for, you know, your office space, your air conditioning, your staff, you know, your free mail system, you know, the free stamps in your office. Okay, some poor schmucko family in Mississippi or Arizona or Washington State or West Virginia, their tax dollars are going to support you. Okay, and it ticks me off to no end when I see politicians just writing numbers on a bill and just saying, hey, you know, let's pass this $2 trillion budget. I said, dude, do you have any concept of how much money that is? They don't give a shit. They just don't care. Okay, and that is a part of me that if I had any authority, I would crush every single last one of them, Democrat or Republican. Okay, federal, state, and local. Okay, because these people are out of control. Okay, they have no clue, you know, and maybe they do, and maybe I think a lot of them probably do, and they just don't care. You know, I need more money. I need more support. I need to bring home the bacon to my district. Okay, kind of like Pelosi and Schumer were trying to do, you know, when they passed this last bill. I mean, that's what I think, Jeff.
I think the common elements are, so Ed and I share a lot of backgrounds. We share a spiritual background, you know, a Catholic Christian background. We share a kind of a rural background. We share a military background. He was a Marine, I was a soldier. And we came from a time when the social institutions, churches, government, schools were less corrupt. And so we already had a basis. I much preferred working with agents like Ed who had military background, because there's a real selfless service aspect to the military, which they're trying to weed out right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that really those elements of kind of being rural, a spiritual background, a military background, a moral background, really prepared you. I remember when I was sitting in Quantico, Ed, and I was going through the basic class, and they said, "Yeah, we're canceling your ethics class in '90." I'm like, "Hey, listen, I'm a former military officer, and you know, I already got this training, but I think some of these guys that have never been military or cops, you better, since they're going to be handling millions of dollars worth of drugs and money, you better do an ethics class." Yeah. Like, don't worry about it. And so of course, it's always been corrupt. There's always corruption because that's human nature. But in times of great need, like I have listeners who think that, World War II was just a setup. Well, there was a setup to it, but did we need to fight World War II? Hell yeah, of course we needed to fight World War II. We'd be speaking Japanese and German. Yeah. Were there bad elements in there? Certainly, but did the best elements rise to the top during that time? And yes, I think they did. And I think Eisenhower did a great job, and the Office of Strategic Services did a great job. And then from that, you get CIA, which has always been a mess, and you get Special Forces, which have almost always been great. So again, it's never a simple answer, but and that's why you see right now history being crushed. So the Blantifa lies about everybody's racist. Well, we've had a black president. We fought a civil war where hundreds of thousands of guys died to free black slaves. So there, everything's about Dungeons and Dragons, and so that you don't really study history.
Yeah.
So DEA's done bad things. FBI's done bad. Everybody's done bad things.
Sure.
But America has done a lot of great things too. Yeah. And I get emails from all over the world saying, "Hey, thanks for what you're trying to do," because we all look to America. And that core, I'm really glad we're doing this show, and I'm really glad to see Ed again, because this is what a real heroic FBI badass agent Marine looks like in America.
Old and beat up, right?
Shut up, Ed. You're sexy.
But still badass.
Still badass. I mean, that's so good. You're never gonna have 100% pure, right? It's never gonna be this noble army of JFK wanted to end the space race and work with the Soviet Union. He also cheated on his wife, and it's like, are you gonna throw out the baby with the bathwater? I mean, I don't condone that, but you do get to that point where it's like, Eisenhower had a mistress, so did Patton. They also won World War II. Where are we gonna? And that's also a slippery slope. How do you keep on he killed a couple million Jews, but he made good tanks, and it's like, you gotta draw the line somewhere. But you know what? It goes back. Sorry, Tom.
No, no. It goes back to what they say. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
It might be that's just part of the equation, and you have to look at it at a certain point. And there's a former CIA agent, I guess that's been on Joe Rogan a lot, named Mike Baker. And I haven't watched Rogan in a couple of years, but there was one quote from this guy several years ago, and he was like, "Look, he's like, the idea that the United States hasn't done horrible things is just," he's like, "that's not true. We've done terrible things." He goes, "But I can tell you that power, or nature abhors a vacuum. Power will always fill it. I would rather have us than Russia or China or Iran be at the helm, because I'd rather have the power that does the least amount of evil." And that still sucks, but I mean, no surgeon ever has a 100% fault-free career. Like, there is a negligent death somewhere in there. But eventually, you do got to have to choose the surgeon that's also going to be on Air Force One. Like, eventually you have to choose that guy, and it's the least great option. I mean, I think, didn't a couple POWs die in Hiroshima? U.S. POWs? I mean, at a certain point, it's like, you do kind of have to play that cold game of calculus, and it might be built into it. To do a complete 180, Ed, well, you said earlier, is there really such thing as a skiff within a skiff, or was that a saying?
No, I mean, that was like the real deal, man. Yeah, it's like,
Don't play with my heart.
Jeff knows. I mean, it's like, there are some places, at our headquarters that, first, you had to go past the initial wall, and then you went into a separate area that was another walled area. It's like, that's how secure it is. It's
when I used to go into those at DIA when I was a boss, I'd turn to the guy I was with and go, dun, 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 dun. You're too young, Tommy, but that's Get Smart. That's the theme.
That must have loved you, boy.
Where they go.
I know what you're talking about. You've got a big dumb smile on, Mr. Prather. Was there something you wanted to say about a skiff within a? Because I love the idea of it. That just makes me happy that exists.
No, that's special compartmented information and special access programs and keywords and caveats, and certainly that's key. But the problem is you get in so deep that you're not reporting to anybody.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think Stroke as the foreign counterintelligence program of the FBI used to be following the Soviets around. So if you watch Bridge of Spies, that's a pretty good, realistic tradecraft movie, very realistic.
Yeah.
But then if you continue that, where the FBI foreign counterintelligence chief is actually working for the CIA, who's not supposed to work domestically, which they all have offices domestically, then things start to go south. So if you're in a circle and you're pretty transparent, you're okay, but we're not anymore. All you got to do is look at the FISA warrants.
No kidding. I mean, that's another thing, that I am absolutely amazed. There should have been a half a dozen or a dozen people go to jail over that. Okay. And the one guy that they caught, this attorney who pled guilty, doesn't serve a day in jail. I mean, I am just amazed that the FISA court would let basically the FISA court said, hey, you know what? It's okay. You can screw us in the ass. Okay. No harm, no foul. I'm thinking, what? In our day, I think, you would have had 10, 12 people in jail.
Oh my gosh. If we had done that in our day, we'd be in federal prison.
Exactly. I mean, it's just so bizarre, but getting back to the corruption issue, I mean, true corruption, I don't know what the answer is. Okay, I am just so angry at politicians. Okay, and the thing is, I don't know. I don't think in my lifetime we'll be able to change it. I think we need to institute a policy where politicians, at the beginning of every day that they're at work, they need to swear an oath, like you do before you testify in court, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. I think they should swear an oath every single day. Okay, so that because the problem we have is that they double talk, double speak, backslide, do the moonwalk, they dodge and weave, and they never really get to the truth, or they never respond with the truth. Okay, so it's like if you put these people under oath every day, and everything they say is subject to what's the word I'm looking for? When you lie in court,
perjury.
Perjury.
Yeah, is subject to perjury. Okay, I think that would help quell, some of the crap that's going on, and with the politicians, and government, high level government employees. I never agreed with the Soviet Union's policies at all. I spent a year in Bulgaria in 1972 at the U.S. Embassy. Man, talk about a bleak country. I mean, that was at the height of the Cold War. But
Were you a Marine Guard?
Yeah, I was a Marine Guard. Yeah, but I found out that some locals had been caught. Local Bulgarian government officials had been caught in some sort of corruption scandal. They were skimming off the top or something, And guess what happened to them, Tom? They ended up executed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean
that was the punishment in the Eastern Bloc. If you were found guilty of public corruption, stealing from the people, you forfeited your life. You were executed. Okay, and I'm thinking, you know what? There should be a similar policy in the U.S. Imagine how many politicians would be corrupt at that point. I mean, there still would be some, but you never know.
I mean, yeah, there's. You said it earlier, Ed, and I think I have to agree with Mr. Prather on. And I think you might be too kind when you said these politicians don't understand what all these zeros mean. Respectfully, I disagree. I think they completely know what it means. I don't think these people are stupid. I think they're brilliant. I think they're malicious. I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. The idea that these people are stupid is that's giving them them the benefit of the doubt.
I am trying to give them the benefit of the doubt,
sure.
Because if they are knowingly and, as you said, maliciously doing this, then they should be executed.
Yeah,
I'm dead serious. It's like that is a corruption on a level never seen before in our history.
Sure.
Okay, in all human history.
Yeah, it's and for whatever blue-haired, 12-gendered person that's now going to flag my video, my podcast does not support the inciting of violence. Because someone will get this podcast banned.
Or anything illegal, immoral, or unethical.
Illegal.
That's what I always say on home.
Yeah. Because unfortunately, that is a thing people will.
Watch out, Ed. They'll be breaking your younger guys.
Ed will take him down. He's done it before. He'll do it again.
Yeah, you know what though? I mean, whatever.
No, it's true. It's what they said during the founding of the country. If you devalue our currency or plagiarize it, you are a penalty of death.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
but
not.
The thing is, that's what's wrong with our society. I was looking I was watching TV this morning, and I get so upset, angry and physically upset about now, I was reviewing something that Chicago passed. There's a no chase policy, no foot chase policy now. I'm thinking, what? I'd never heard of a no foot chase policy. I mean, I heard of a no chase policy in cars. I mean, you don't want to get involved in a high speed chase in a downtown city, for a misdemeanor. I mean, if it's a felony, someone shot and killed somebody. Yeah, you got to try to find this guy and get him. But now they have a no chase policy on foot in Chicago, and I'm thinking,
doesn't it seem, tinfoil hat? Doesn't it seem like they're laying the groundwork for some sort of like robot enforcement? Doesn't it seem like defunding the police? Doesn't it seem like
the groundwork? They are setting the groundwork for total and complete anarchy
to be replaced with a strong arm. That's the playbook of power.
No, it's just to let the criminals run wild. That's what they're running. They're running drugs. They're running people. In fact, tomorrow on my show, I'm going to have a guest that's going to talk about stroke. And Biden just put his wife in charge, and he's going to, and the child trafficking and the uranium stuff in Ohio and all that.
Jesus, it's three quick questions that I have, because we've done 56 minutes of legitimate discussions, and now I have to get in my my insanity. One, do you think anyone actually knows the big picture? Like the skiff within the skiff within the skiff within the skiff? Like what's under NORAD? Like how deep does anyone know? Or is the system so compartmentalized that whoever's at the top doesn't even know they're at the top?
Forget NORAD. I want to know if those flying saucers are real.
Well, that was my second question out of my final. I'm not even kidding. That was my second question.
I'm just joking with you. No, but in reference to your first question, I think Jeff would agree with me. I think the answer, generally speaking, the answer is no.
I don't think anyone can.
I mean, people have their own agendas. People have their schedules and their own missions and stuff like that. Yes, people generally know what direction to pull in or to push the wagon down the road. But with that said, everybody has their own agenda. Mm-hmm. Okay, and if it suits them to go off the reservation at a certain point in time, they will go off the reservation. Come hell or high water. Damn the torpedoes.
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm just amazed at how China is just influencing our society so much. Entertainment and the movies, sports, politicians, industry. I'm like, wow, man. This would never have happened, 20 years ago. It's just like, and we're letting them do it. We are handing them the keys. We're handing them the club to beat us over the head with.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, here's the club. Now hit me hard. It's like, I'm just amazed.
I think everyone. I think Mr. McCarthy is owed an apology posthumously.
Oh yeah, he was right.
He's absolutely right, 100%. Yeah. Okay, well, that my second question is UFOs and all that. Do you think that? I think because there could be a serious question. Is it United States technology, and this is a way of disclosing it, or because I think the theme of this whole podcast has been. I think it's all pretty much rotted through with corruption. So when the story is that here are UFOs that the Pentagon's acknowledging, my spidey sense goes off. I'm like, they're not just telling us the people that have lied about Tuskegee, about the USS Maine, about the Gulf of Tonkin, about WMDs, all of a sudden, 14 days to flatten the curve, all of a sudden they're coming out and they're going, UFOs are real and they're here. And everyone's, oh my God. And I don't know. It's the dog that's been beaten. I'm just looking at it and I'm like, it's not going to be what I think. Or is this do I have too much tinfoil on my head?
No, that is correct. That is U.S. stealth technology. I have multiple sources in DOD, and CIA has a long history of using UFOs to cover up air surveillance.
F-117s, yeah.
I think, Jeff, you're absolutely correct. It's like the old the F-117s. that were flying around back in the 80s, I think it was, in the mid 80s. People thought, oh my God, diamond shaped UFOs. Oh my God, what's going on? And you know what? When you start putting two and two together, some of it starts coming out. Yeah, those are the stealth bombers, the F-117s and then the B-2 and the B-1 bombers, So, but what part of me is like, what, wouldn't it be great? I mean, if we found, life, on another planet or something like that, certainly, I mean, I don't want to end up like Independence Day, the movie, so.
Yeah, that's a good point. I figure if they wanted to kill us, they would have already done it, I think, right?
Well, that's true,
Yeah.
Or, we could end up with some sort of a more subtle, pathogen, is dropped on us. I'm reading a book now, how these aliens dropped a pathogen on Earth and we just, rotted away. The pathogen just killed us. So
yeah.
When you look at the immense space in space, in the early days it was a rocket ship, and then it was a Starship Enterprise, which is streamlined for no reason. But really, if you want to transcend and translate, you have to go through some kind of gate or wormhole or something. So that's a transdimensional being. So you can say aliens or you can say angels.
Yeah.
You can say tomato or you can say tomato.
Yeah.
But it's a transdimensional being. And that fits with all kinds of ancient spiritual texts, from Christianity to the Vedas,
Hindus,
to everything.
The Vedantas, the Mahabharata, the reports of UFOs, or the Bible, Ezekiel, a wheel within a wheel.
So as far as transdimensional beings, to all in on that.
Tomato, it's one of,
but for the UFO stuff that the G's putting out right now, no, that's
you know what though,
I
have to concur with Jeff. It's like, if the public knew, if the F-17, the F-117 stealth bomber was made public in the 80s and 90s, what the hell do you think they've got on the back burner?
Exactly.
So this is just the next, probably 2 or 3 generations ahead. What we're seeing now is probably two or three generations ahead of where we are today.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just hope and pray to God that it's ours.
Well, again, I think it's the perfect denied. I think it's a perfectly denied weapon, and I've said it before. Because what better way to go attack China and Soviet Union or Russia and be like, I can't believe these aliens want to hit Beijing and Moscow.
You are a warmonger. You are a warmonger.
I am. I'm getting kickbacks from the Pentagon.
We would never attack China or Russia. We would defend ourselves against them.
Unless we had UFOs, that wasn't us. We would say that's crazy that they want to attack Beijing.
Jeff,
last year they were talking about on 9/11. They were talking about direct-to-gender weapons, weapons, and they were talking about all the fires. And they said no. And then I put up video on my site showing that. And then now they're saying that U.S. troops in Syria are under attack by direct-energy weapons. So which is it?
And they're also calling it the Havana syndrome. Isn't it?
Yep.
And then they're saying, I think within the last 2 months, CNN of all institutions, or whatever you want to call it, put out a video saying, or an article saying that there's evidence of directed energy weapons being used in and around the White House. So it is. That's what Ben Rich with Skunkworks said. He said that's what the future is. It's not going to be a projectile fired by a propellant. It's
that's what I'm saying. Look at the rail guns they have now, and the laser weapons. That's what they have. That's what they're putting up on the window, on the storefront window. Imagine what they have in the back room.
But that isn't the focus of the war. The fifth generation warfare kinetically is very primitive. It's Antifa guys with fire bombs and and handguns and knives. All the F-38B7 is sitting around because that's not what the war is. It's fifth generational information influence operations and influencing Stroke and Biden and everybody else at the highest levels.
And buying everybody off.
So final question, I guess the big enchilada, because Mr. Prather, you alluded to it earlier. What do you think went on in and around September 11th? Was it allowed to go through? Is the story we've been told actually correct? Was it planned, or was this Did we let it slip through the cracks because we wanted justification to go into the Middle East? I mean, was that the USS Maine? Was it the Lusitania? Was it the Gulf of Tonkin? Is this what it is, or is it kind of what Ed said earlier when he said yes? Is it a foggy mixture of everything? Because too many people made too much money. There are too many odd coincidences on that day. There are too many reports in the years prior to it about how we need a new Pearl Harbor for a new American century. And then we're still occupying what the largest petroleum reserves in the world. And I won't even say what my beliefs are because I don't entirely know. I can't say what it is. I don't know. But I don't think it's what we've been told. It just, and again, history has shown that you can't really trust what's at the top because it's never, we find out 8 decades later, oh, they're lying to us. And then another decade passes and we find out that the next decade, oh, they were lying to us. Well, eventually you got to connect the dots and go, hey, one day in the year 2100, they're going to be like, they were fucking lying to us about whatever. What do you think, or do you even have an opinion, or would you just care to pass, Mr. Prather?
No, you asking me?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I've been panned on shows years ago for saying I still think planes flew into buildings.
Sure.
And I was at both ground zeros shortly thereafter. But having then talked to my peerage, like Tony Schaefer, who at DIA, who data mined Osama bin Laden and then was hung out to dry like DEA hung me out to dry, like the FBI agents in Arizona that wanted to investigate the pilots and were told not to, like the DEA agents who were working the Israeli art students from Mossad that were in the towers beforehand. Now, yeah, I still think that planes flew into towers,
I
not
agree.
Building 7. And I don't know about the Pentagon, but I do think there was a lot of inside cooperation. And I think I was kind of like Ed. I was, a true believer. We both came out of the military. We wanted to serve our country, and we thought we were still serving our country like not like Gulf of Tonkin, false flag. Yeah, certainly. But yeah, I think that was a setup.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I can't go too deep into it when people are like, there weren't any planes, it was all holograms. I'm like, don't get lost in disinfo. Like I had on a firefighter who was at ground zero.
Yeah,
like he's
I'll tell you also that when I was in New York in the Broken Toys, Ed, the guys told me that everybody wanted to go down to ground zero, and the supervisor said you can't go. And of course they went anyway. But I'm like, man, if 9/11 happens and you tell your agents not to go to ground zero to help, you should just be. Yeah. Again, DEA should go away too.
Yeah. So
no, you know what though? I mean, I have to agree with you guys. There are just too many. It's like, how many fail safes do you have to go break?
Yeah.
Before you start thinking to yourself, what the hell?
Yes.
I mean, was it 10, 15, 20 fail safes along the line of a chain of events? It's like, what in the world,
What was the operation Vigilant Guardian? What was the practice run where we were doing on 9/11 about planes being hijacked? So we had all the fighters out and they had to ask, is this real world or is this simulation? I mean, it gets right. James Jesus Angleton, head of the CIA counterintelligence, who had a file on Oswald in 1959. I mean, at a certain point, you're like, hold on. How many coincidences are there? Like, hold on.
Exactly.
And if you bring it up, you look crazy. So I've now pulled you both down into the crazy hole with me, and here you were.
We were waiting for you.
Oh well, then thank you for allowing me in, and I'll make myself at home.
Now the problem is you can't get out now.
I never wanted to leave.
No, but thanks for having me, and it's great and thanks for connecting me back up with my old friend and a true what an FBI agent should be.
Thanks, Jeff.
Is
I
right
really appreciate it.
there.
You know what? You were no slouch yourself, my friend. When we were in Tucson, man, we were rocking and rolling. Rock and roll, man.
And I'm pretty awesome too. There's no one here to pat me on the back, but I just want to say that.
Who's this kid?
Who the fuck is this? Jeff, is this your special grandson? Yeah. But Mr. Prather, Mr. Mireles, thank you so much for coming on here, and I would love to do it again sometime. Thank you for hanging out and discussing with me. I fucking love this shit. And Mr. Prather, there's another one with you and Vince Shefflu that we need to put together. But I'll stop recording because Ed, I know you want, or Jeff wants to get his number.
Yeah.
I don't need people
thank you.
here and all that shit. So hold on.
Thank you. Okay.
Let me